Hello, hello. How is the True Blue crew today? Happy New Year to everyone. Hopefully your first week has gone well. I am sorry to be late. You know, life. My daughter got off work early and she had to call me at 3:59. So I had everything set up for this live stream and then I had to answer the phone and I used the phone for that workspace camera. So then I had to go back and do all the other settings, but we are set for now. This is WIP Wednesday, so I'm very excited to make some progress. I didn't realize that I fell behind on the Wild West puzzle mystery quilt, and I'm just looking so warming as I adjust that camera just a little bit. I don't like having my arm waving there in the corner. You can see a little bit of my fingers, but I am on Team Tumbleweed for the Wild West puzzle mystery quilt. And January was supposed to be clue 7. So you can see I've got that clue all set up here, ready to go. But first I need to do clue 6. And when I looked back at the emails, I was supposed to do this early in December, crazy month of holidays and everybody's schedule gets off track. So I will be putting together clue 6 first and then working on clue 7. I am doing the small size. Now, if you're not familiar with Cotton Cuts, they do these mystery quilts and they send you all the fabric and it's pre-cut. So isn't that nice? On evenings like this, I can just sit down and sew. I want to welcome everybody tonight. Thank you for hanging out with me. We're just going to do a little bit of sewing and chatting. Excuse me, I'm recovering from my cold. And I'm excited to get this going. Now, the trickiest thing about these mystery quilts is keeping the pieces in the right order, because you can see we've got a couple different size triangles here and they don't all fit together. So you have to pay attention to your clue diagrams, and the clue diagrams get tricky because some of the pieces that may look dark in the diagram are actually light on the fabric. So that's where our little fabric guide comes in. So it's very, very handy to have the fabric guide there with you. So that is what I will be putting together. And I would love to know what you are sewing tonight or this afternoon or this January or in your dreams. We have a pretty wide range of working on. So our WIP Wednesday work in progress is our sew and chat time, whatever project in whatever stage it is. I shared a video a couple days ago. I have great plans to do a temperature quilt in 2025. So that will be a lot of fun and that will come up. I'll do some updates on that throughout the year. So I am going to start with step 1 here of clue 6 was to get these light colored flying geese. And so I just match up those notches, those blunt ends there on the pre-cut, make it so nice. And I'm just going to take things one step at a time. I could jump ahead and start working on with some of these other pieces, but I am just going to take it nice and slow. I was a little bit frazzled getting on late, so I want to just slow down and take my time so that we don't have to get the seam ripper out. So I love to hear about everybody's projects. And if you are a fan of mystery quilts, do you embrace the unknown, or do you like to have things planned out and know what you're getting into? I am okay. As long as I enjoy the fabric I'm working with, pattern doesn't really make that much of a difference. Other thing, well, trying to decide if I should move the camera so you can see a little more of my needle. I can do a demonstration a little bit later. Sometimes these corners that you start with get off track and they will bunch up a little bit. And so if you're trying to feed your fabric underneath your presser foot with the presser foot all the way down, that may cause issues there. So I just lift the presser foot and get that fabric right up against the needle. And then I start slowing. Slow down a little bit. So you heard that little beep. My presser foot went up, lining everything up, put the presser foot down. And then there's less of a tendency for the machine to eat up and bunch up those corners of the triangles there. So that helps. Okay. I always finger press as I'm working here, and I am going to move this camera. Hang on just a second. So motion warning here, if you need to close your eyes for a second as I move my computer, and that way you can see a little bit, which direction, there we go, a little bit of my machine. So I just finger press all of these. The fabric, since it was all pre-cut, is going to line up really nicely. So I don't need to hit it with a hot iron until I'm all done with the whole unit. So as I said, I just finger press and go from there. So then checking my step 2 is this unit with the green fabric as the large. I call this the goose of my flying geese, is the bigger triangle, and then the sky are the corner fabrics. So I'm going to line those right up. And if you never have tried a mystery quilt and would like to, the next one gets started in February, and it's called Flyway for the birds that migrate. And there are still quite a few of the colorways left, so you can go to Cotton Cuts website and choose your color. They have 2 payment options. You can purchase and pay ahead for the whole entire quilt, or you can pay monthly. They send out the fabric kits, so you'll get something like this in the mail once a month if you choose the monthly option, or I mean, even if you pay ahead. Actually, I think if you pay ahead, you get the whole kit in a box, but they're all labeled, so you just get the directions for 1 month at a time. So even if you're tempted, you cannot sew ahead because you don't have the instructions. But that pay ahead option ends when they start shipping out the clues. So if you think you might want to splurge and pay for it all at once, you need to sign up ASAP. And there is a code in the description box below. If you use my code, you'll get a special gift. And I so enjoy being an ambassador for Cotton Cuts and sewing these projects. So much fun. So there is a completed flying geese unit. And then I have to finish my second one. So again, I'm just going to finger press this unit. I've sewn the 1/4 inch seam, and with flying geese, you usually want to press out to the corners. So I'm just going to do that. That's what the pressing instructions indicate. And then I can lay the second corner on top. So I imagine kids are all back to school now. My daughter's college classes start next week, so she has a little bit more of a break. And since I am not a classroom teacher anymore, I don't have to live by that school calendar. It's kind of nice to just roll right along into January. I love the freshness of a new calendar at the start of the year. So much fun. Okay, and now we are going to take these, and I need to remember B is green. So I'm going to put that on one side, and we're going to take these 2 long pieces, and then this goes on the other side. So upside down for you, but for me, I am in the right order. And of course, with this, it's symmetrical, so we could turn it around and get it going if that makes a difference later. And I've been in a quandary with some of this fabric. These flowers do have a direction. They stand up tall here. And so sometimes it looks like they get upside down in the placement of the blocks. And I decided I'm just not going to worry about that. And the other trick when sewing your flying geese to make sure that these units come out is your seams make an X on the tip of the triangle. And so that should be right at a 1/4 inch. That intersection point, the cross of the X, is where I am aiming my needle, right through that. And that way, when it gets folded back, you have not cut off your point. So something to watch out for when you are piecing flying geese unit. And I will finger press that one as well. It's so nice not to have any pressing or trimming, I mean, in the middle of these flying geese blocks because they're pre-cut with triangles. I usually make my flying geese from a rectangle of fabric with a square on top of it. And so then I have to trim off that bonus triangle, but I don't have to worry about that today because it is all pre-cut. And then we are going to do the same thing. So you can see how nicely that lays with, and I didn't get my point cut off, so that just looks terrific. And I will, excuse me, do the same thing with this fabric. And I don't pin. I can sew about 6 inches with no pins as long as I don't have any intersection. If I was trying to match those points, I certainly would pin. But at this stage, I think I am okay without pinning. I can aim for that intersection. And as long as we have 2 units, we can just keep going back and forth, kind of like we're chain piecing. Hello, Annette. Thanks for showing up. How are things up north? We've got the polar vortex freezing people out across half the country. We've got California, LA area dealing with those terrible fires. And I'm just sitting here enjoying the sunshine in Arizona. So definitely praying that everyone stays safe and healthy with this wild weather stuff going on. Okay, there is part of our unit. And now I am going to use the floral fabric. I'm just double checking my notes to make sure, because these are all labeled A, B, C, D, E, F to correspond with the diagram. And we are putting D on the right and C. This is just such a gorgeous blue. I love that fabric. And Annette's got a dusting of snow. My days of living in the snow are long gone. So I will hope that it's beautiful for you and you can stay out of it. Yeah, you're catching up, Annette. I know it's been tough for you not being able to sew for a while. And this is clue 6. I was explaining at the beginning of the video. Somehow I didn't sew these blocks in December. This was a month ago and I'm catching up. So here we go. And okay, so I only want two of these, and then we flip the arrangement and we put the triangles on opposite sides. So I have learned to pay attention to the number of units when putting these together. Just because you have 8 triangles does not mean they all go together in the same pattern. Yeah, that would be wonderful to get caught up, Annette. Okay. So like I said, I'm trying not to mix my steps up. So we'll finger press that. Goes together. Another question is, if you are a guesser, are you one of the people that takes the units and tries to lay them out before you get the final instructions? I am not a guesser. I like to just play along, and I'm content with whatever information they give me. I don't try to make a lot of predictions about how things will go together. And just like Annette, I have some Floral States of America blocks to put together as well. I like to save those for my in-person sew days with my group of friends at the local quilt shop, so I can hang on to those for a couple more weeks. Yeah, it sounds like we're very similar in our habits, Annette, waiting to put things together until they give us the official layout. Okay, so that, oh, I have to put squares on these two. So let's see. Yeah. So we are taking this flying geese unit and we are adding a plain square to one end. So those light fabrics will touch. So who got quilting supplies for Christmas? I did not. I got a nice sweatshirt. This obviously I've had for a while, but my daughter followed my gift suggestion and found the sweatshirt that I wanted. And I got a yarn kit to make a shawl because I also knit, but I didn't get any other sewing stuff. But of course, I didn't have a long list. I've got plenty of fabric and supplies. Yes, Annette, I love my in-person sew days. We do have a lot of fun. Don't necessarily make a lot of progress, but that's why it's nice to have just a few blocks from cotton cuts to put together when we are all together. So then that goes like that, and then show there. Okay, turn this over. Why am I missing a... Phew. Found it underneath another piece. I need to just slow down and talk. I found my fabric under another piece. But that reminds me, Cotton Cuts is very responsive. If you find that you do not have the pieces you need in one of the clues, just email their support team and they drop it in the mail the very next day almost. So, Annette, I would not say that I have an endless list of talents, but I've tried most every needle craft. I find knitting to be just a little more portable. I do simple scarf and shawl patterns. Obviously, we don't need sweaters much here in Arizona. I leave that to my mother. But with knitting, I can just take a bag with me easier than, let's say, English paper piecing. I tend to like my quilting to be quick and easy and simple straight lines, and EPP is a little too fussy for me. I do have 2 EPP projects going that I would like to get back to, so I just need to sit down and get in the rhythm of it, I think. And I know there are some people that do English paper piecing on their machine. They sew the hexagons together. I say hexagon. You can use a lot of different shapes in EPP, but that's just the shape that I am using and most familiar with. But it seems very tedious to start and stop your machine for those little 1-inch seams on a English paper piecing unit. Okay, so where are we? I got that one. Okay, and then we are going to match up. Oh, I need to sew the triangles before we get the squares in place. Yeah, the squares are going to back up to the triangles. And so that unit will look just like that. Some people just like the fussy stuff. Get, fussy cut a certain shape out of a fabric and make it repeat around the floret. Okay, whoops. There we go. My next question for the group. Hit the like and subscribe buttons. My reminder to folks, if you're enjoying this video, share it with your friends and mark your calendar for 4 p.m. Mountain Time on Wednesdays is typically when I go live to get a little sewing done. I just have had a lot of things going on in the evening, so I haven't been able to do any sewing, and then spent some time with my husband this weekend. We went camping, and so didn't have any sewing time then. But when I have the time blocked off on my calendar, I can usually show up for those things. Hello, Jess. Jess, you're doing one of the Cotton Cuts things, right? I'm thinking that's where I first came across your channel, but if I'm remembering right, you're also doing a Civil War quilt now. That's awesome. I guess if I had to answer my own question, New Year's resolutions, I typically do not make resolutions. You get to a certain age and you're kind of like, self-improvement is a year-round process. I don't need to make the long list. That 10 pounds is going to stick around, so we'll just make peace with it. Although if you do have weight loss and healthy living on your resolution goal sheet, I can highly recommend Dara Thomason, the Quilters coach, has helped me tremendously. So my quilting goals, I would like to finish more than I start. So I feel like I'm buried here in the sewing room. So once I get things organized, I need to clear. I'm looking right behind the camera is a big pile of things, and it's like it blocks the path to the closet, and I need to get that dealt with. And like I said, my husband was kind of making some comments about being a quilt widow. He never sees me because I'm always off quilting, so I am scheduling our weekends away. So he likes to camp. And I like it too. I'm just not the bare bones survivalist. I would definitely, I like toilets and showers and that kind of thing. But he has fixed up our minivan, or a minivan, and turned it into a camper with a nice kitchenette type area. And so we can, as long as the roads aren't too rough, we can get there in our little camper. And oh my word, when you get away from the city and can see the night sky, and all the stars are just gorgeous. It was a little chilly last weekend, but we did survive. And you have to give me some grace, the Arizona girl. It was 23 degrees when we woke up in the morning. There was just a little bit of frost on the window. Oh, Jess, yes, curved piecing. I have become close friends with Tasha at Tasha Quilts, and we want to do, I'm going to her for curved piecing because that's her jam. And I am right there with you on the long arm. I feel so guilty because I did a quilt before Christmas. I wanted it to be a present for my mother-in-law, and she loved it, by the way. I took that quilt off, and I've got, obviously I have my own stack this high, but I have two for customers that I need to get on and off the long arm. And it's just been sitting there for 3 weeks now because my brother was in town over Christmas. So I spent a lot of time with him and his family and my parents. And then I got this cold and haven't felt like quilting. So, do you have a curved pattern in mind, Jess? That's what I think I am going. Well, I have two. I have the Herbivore pattern by Jenny Hayes, and I have the nativity scene from So Kind of Wonderful. I don't remember what that pattern is called, but it has, the manger and the wise men and a camel and a lamb and stuff. And I'd love to do that. But I've got, let's see, I did carry over my Woven Hearts quilt. It was a paper piecing project that I worked on last fall. I need to get some borders on that. I have a plan for the quilting, so that should be a quick finish. I made the backing, so that's ready to go. Yeah, we should organize a sew along, Jess, for that nativity scene. And long arm, I have several videos on sketching. I always find that sketching is a great practice to work on your free motion quilting skills. And then another gal I met last year, Susan Smith, has some long arm classes. So that is a good resource. But you're not a total novice, so it's just time on task. Okay, so now I have to look. So my blues are, let's see. Fabric D is my cream, so that needs to be on this side. And then we're going to put one of these two will go down here, and then this one, I just need to get it all laid out so I see how it's going. Yes, and then that blue will be there. Well, isn't that interesting with those colors coming together like that? Okay, so our fabrics are gonna nest with this square and this center rectangle. So I will put a pin in that intersection. And I just heard the ding of my phone. We have one of those tracking apps so that we can at least know where our daughter is as she started driving on her own. And yes, she's in college, but mama always worries. But they've got the tracking thing set to a pretty wide area. So when it dings to say she's home, she's actually like around the corner coming into the neighborhood. Oh, Annette, I'm sorry that you haven't been able to work at your long arm, but hopefully taking this time to heal will mean that you are ready to go and don't have any setbacks when you do get back at it. Nice. Okay, and then we press towards the bigger unit. So I'm going to keep finger pressing there. Get the stray threads out of the way. Okay. So I am wondering what elements they have in this pattern that make it a Wild West theme. I said I don't like to guess with the components, but I am interested because the pictures I've seen of Carnival was one of the puzzle mystery quilts last year that kind of had a circular, almost Ferris wheel looking layout. And then the Tree of Life, of course, that just people were putting together over the last couple months has kind of tree branches coming out of it. And so I'm wondering if all of these spiky triangles will be like barbed wire. Would that be a Wild West type element? Annette, did I remember that your mom is in California? Hopefully she's well away from the fire area. It's looking a little ripply. I'm going to have to hit that with the iron. And one of these days I need to get a little craft sized iron to keep here closer to my machine than my full size one. But the good thing about quilting is you don't have to be a perfectionist. As long as the 3 layers hold together, it is a functional item. And someone somewhere will fall in love with it. I do plan to donate this quilt. It's gorgeous. I love the fabrics, but I did not make this with the intention of keeping it. So Tombstone is gorgeous. They choose such good fabrics that I don't think I'd be disappointed with any of those options. Same thing with Flyway. It was really hard to choose what what fabric collection to use for Flyway, but okay, so then this. Okay, so there is a finished component for clue 6. So I can set that aside and put this back in. Back in its container. And start on clue 7. This almost looks like the flocking of an arrow. And Jess, you mentioned you were a school teacher, right? I have to say I am not sad that I left that lifestyle behind. You have so much admiration for showing up for those kids every day. We're doing only 2 of these. 2 of them like that. And then we've got these long strips. And then we're going to do 4. 4, 6, 7, 8. Now this is funny because we're making 8 half square triangles with the same fabrics. But we're pressing them in 2 different directions. Ooh, Annette, which remind me what colors are in Drifter. I am Team Odyssey for Flyway, and that's a one of the neutral kind of browns and grays and a little more masculine. So we're pressing these green and blue in different directions. So I'm sure that will make it all come together nicely in the end. Oh, good luck getting back to work, Annette. Yes, it is nice to return and have the kids say how much they missed you. Funny story. I was in the office. I work remote, but we have to be in the office one day a week or one day a month. And back in November, I think it was, we were in the office, the whole team was chatting, and a guy asked me if I had taught at a certain school. And I said, yes. And he said, you were my math teacher. So about 10 years ago, he was a student in my class, and now we work for the same organization. Yeah, a little bit different areas, but yeah, that was funny. Okay, so then we're taking this. I'm trying to do my steps in order. We'll set that second clue two off to the side. Where did, oh, here's my, these go to the floral. And then it's gonna go on this end. I'm looking off to my paper, which is just off the camera. To, and this is another one where the fabrics are directional, so you just work with the pieces you have, and that's going to go in different directions, but hopefully that won't be too disturbing for whoever ends up with this quilt. I always worry that, you know, you're going to have some OCD person that's going to get really bothered by the direction of the fabric, but it gets all moved around when you throw it on your lap anyway. Okay, and we are doing this. Okay, and then I can start on these half square triangles. Yes, Annette, you need to keep up that indoctrination. She teaches uh, high school kids how to sew, which I think is fabulous. And Jess, are you able to work in any quilting into your math lessons? I always thought it would be fun to work on a quilt design with some geometry concepts, symmetry and things, and then obviously have them do the calculations. Um, but I never was brave enough to put the whole lesson together. In a lot of places, the curriculum is pretty standardized. All the teachers have to do the same thing. So it wouldn't have worked in my situation. And then a friend of mine homeschools her kids, and they're in a co-op, and she was saying that I could write a proposal to the co-op and teach quilting through that kind of organization. That would be kind of fun. I really do think this section is going to be the flocking of an arrow. The way these slanted pieces are going as I look at the final layout. But so press to our long strip. Where am I? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I can press these to one direction. And 1, 2, 2. The other one going, and this one presses to green. Okay, and then we put these like this to make a parallelogram. Yeah, working with some of those simple units, just probably good practice for multiplication tables. You know, if you have a 6x7 layout, how many squares would that be? And just teaching kids how to use a ruler is probably a good life skill these days. that they don't necessarily get anywhere. So the way I am seeing this in the diagram is that these units are placed like this. And so I really do think that's going to look like an arrow, and I just sewed those all backwards. Darn it. Okay, so here comes Jack. I assumed, again, because the diagrams have the letter on the darker fabric, and I just went by the darker fabric, this parallelogram needs to be this blue fabric. So I am going to turn off the camera, do my ripping, and have some dinner, and we'll get back at this a little bit later. I just have to catch up on the comments there. But Jess and Annette are talking about machines, so that sounds really good. That you can get some more use out of machines. Yeah, Jess, if you are looking for fabric to use in the classroom, I would say ask around at guilds, and they may have fabric to donate, because I know we have a huge sale and people bring fabric, and then we price it really cheap and we still don't get rid of it all, and then we need a place to donate it. So keep in touch, and I may be able to help you out with some donations. Of course, shipping from Phoenix to New York would be an endeavor, so hopefully you can find some resources locally. But yeah, I would say a lot of quilt guilds probably have donation bins that they might be willing to support a classroom project. So have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much to everyone that is here and that has been watching on the replay. Thank you so much. And we will be back here in a week, if not sooner. Take care.